Good evening. A postgraduate student from Ukraine has admitted murdering an 82-year-old grandfather and plotting to cause explosions near mosques in the West Midlands to increase racial conflict.
Pavlo Lapshin, who's 25, killed Mohammed Salim just 5 days after he arrived to work in the country. He also planted bombs near mosques in Walsall, Wolverhampton and Tipton. The Tipton device contained hundreds of nails and exploded just an hour before Ramadan prayers.
Well, earlier, Mohammed Salim's daughter gave this reaction to Lapshin's guilty plea from outside the Old Bailey.
It is a relief not having to sit through a long and tedious trial and listen to the horrendous details of this violent crime. Our father was a lovely, kind man who left prayers for the last time that night of the 29th of April. He did not do anything to deserve this horrendous killing other than be a Muslim. He was targeted simply because of his faith, his beard and his clothing represented who he was. Pavlov chose to kill him that night with only that intention in mind. Hopefully he will get the sentence that he deserves and he will no longer be able to commit crimes like this ever again.
Pavlo Lapshin told officers he wanted to blow up Muslim worshippers because he was a racist. The student said he wanted to carry out a series of explosions as he thought that would achieve more than a single act of terrorism.
West Midlands police say they believe he acted alone and had no links to extreme organisations. Keith Wilkinson reports.
Yeah, this is Mohammed Salim, one of the regular namazis.
Stabbed in the back 3 times, Mohammed Salim, a much respected 82-year-old grandfather, a totally innocent man, killed in April as he walked home from prayers at his local mosque in Small Heath, Birmingham. Picked at random, police say he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The man who killed him, 25-year-old Pavlo Lapshin, described as calm, calculating and self-radicalised. He confessed to West Midlands police. When detectives asked him why he had killed Mr. Salim, he said, "I have a racial hatred, so I have a motivation, a racial motivation and racial hatred." Lapshin, who'd been traced through pictures from several CCTV cameras, carried out the murder just 5 days after arriving in England. In his native Ukraine, he'd won a PhD student work placement to this company in Small Heath. The building was evacuated after his arrest and his other confessions, that he was responsible for 3 recent bomb explosions near mosques and had the chemicals and parts to make more. He also had mobile phones here adapted to trigger the bombs. First, there had been a small explosion in this children's lunchbox left close to a mosque in Walsall. This is a photo of him carrying that bomb to the mosque. Then a second explosion on a traffic island opposite Wolverhampton Central Mosque. But by far the worst explosion, a bomb outside a mosque in Tipton on July the 12th. This one could have been devastating, with horrific injuries and loss of life. This bomb was packed with nails, and so powerful was the explosion, those nails were embedded in garden fences and tree trunks, and one tree branch was completely severed by the impact. Only by sheer luck was this car park almost empty. This picture shows some of the nails recovered from the scene, including this one in a fence 70 metres away. Because Lapshin got the wrong time for when Friday prayers were taking place, the bomb went off on a timing device before hundreds of people were due to arrive. Asked why he'd targeted mosques, Lapshin told police it was racism. "I would like to increase racial conflict," he said, "because they are not white and I am white." Lapshin, who had a master's degree in the technology of machine building, said his purpose was to commit a terrorist act, and more than one. A series of explosions may achieve more, he told the police. Here, 2 survivors of the Tipton nail bomb tell their story to an imam at the mosque. Along with a number of others that day, they had a very narrow escape as debris flew through the air in the blast.
A big explosion went off. As the explosion went off, he felt jolted and shocked and taken back, and all of a sudden people started coming to the doors. When I arrived, a big explosion happened. I thought something related to the gas boilers or something went off. When I opened the door, there was nails all over the place, and I walked past the nails and I got to the car park, and there was a gentleman parking up who was actually in the car park at the time. I think we're very fortunate. It's a blessing from God, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we've actually sort of got away from this. We've escaped, especially in the month of Ramadan, and when there's a lot of activity, people take time off to be at the mosque.
Well, there's no question it was a terrible, terrible period. Mohammed Salim, as a perfectly innocent old man walking home after prayers, to be picked out and stabbed and murdered in that way, having his life ripped away from him prematurely, is awful. Likewise, the potential consequences of the bombing campaign on the mosques across our region was also had the potential to be horrific.
Although Lapshin had an interest in those with extreme racist views, police are convinced he was not linked to any group.
And we can confirm that he was a loner. He didn't communicate with anyone at all about the heinous crimes that he committed.
A neighbour of Lapshin's in Ukraine tells us there had once been an explosion in his flat there. She thought it was an experiment as part of his lab studies. And his father says his son had detonated what he calls a chemical mix in Ukraine. Police are now in Ukraine finding out more about him and why he came to the West Midlands to kill. Keith Wilkinson, ITV News.
Our other big news story tonight, police are continuing to search for a father who snatched